Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you for joining our February GTM Ask Me Anything session. This is a monthly series where we focus subject matter experts talking through go-to-market programs, offers, and resources. Today, I'm excited to share that we have Wendy Ditmore, our Senior GTM through Channel and Solution Marketing Lead, leading our session today, and she is going to share with you the Geo Expansion program and how this program can help grow your expertise, build strong partnerships, and support our mutual customers. We do have a team of marketing specialists on the line from the Go to Market with Microsoft team, so please do ask your questions during this session, and we will address them either live or through the chat. All right, Wendy, I'll hand it on over to you.
All right, excellent. Looks like we're all good to go. Hi, everybody. Thank you for taking time with me today. As Jordan mentioned, I'm Wendy Ditmore and sit within our go-to-market benefits team. And Geo Expansion as a program has been something that I've been nurturing and growing with many partners over the last 18 to about 20 months now that we've had live with this program, and hopefully we'll give some interesting insights for you today, some best practices. I have a number of tips, things that I've learned from our partners who've been a part of the program so far, and then some ways that you can get started, and hopefully this will be helpful for you. So with that, I am going to go ahead and get started. I think the first thing we ought to do is think about, what does geo expansion mean for you? And honestly, it can mean different things for different partners. And if we think about what some of those might look like, it can be about incorporating your business into a new market. It can be hiring a new person for the first time in that particular country, building some new partnerships, maybe opening a full office, setting up a regional tenant or cloud setup in that new market, building out your pipeline and signing your first deals. Maybe it's building your localized messaging that you go to market with, and then also things like entering into our Geo Expansion program. So these are just some of the examples, and you may, as you think about what Geo Expansion might mean for you and your business, maybe it aligns with one of these examples here, or it might mean even something different. So we've tried to think about all these different kinds of scenarios, and then build out a program that hopefully meets you where you're at. But before we get into that, I really wanted to take time, first of all, to think about what that shared opportunity looks like for us together. And really, it's about, how do we drive your strategic solutions that sit on Microsoft product into new markets with us? And when we think about the kind of the definition in a dictionary of what geo expansion might look like, they talk about it in terms of an internal growth strategy, in terms of what an entrepreneurial business is growing, where they expand from one location that was the original place they started to additional geographic sites. But as I mentioned before, there are all kinds of scenarios about what geo expansion might mean for you. There are 4 key goals that we have in mind in how we can hopefully help you as you expand into new markets. And you can see those 4 here. So it's about, how do we help accelerate your expansion into those new countries, and then doing it in a way that's more predictable and consistent. We've heard from a lot of partners before we started the Geo Expansion program, there wasn't anything out there that was a tangible core location and program to help the partners. So we wanted to create something that would be consistent and really scale, because there are so many of you out there and only one of me. So how do we find ways to do this in an approach that helps you as you expand into many markets? We also want to make sure that we're working together to secure customer opportunities against that competition using your amazing solutions. And I think part of what I love about my job is that as I talk with partners that are expanding into new markets, and you share with me some of your different solutions, there are some incredible things that you're all building out there that have amazing opportunity in those different countries. And then finally, of course, we all want to see that mutual pipeline and that co-sell motion that really drives revenue growth, so that you can get to a point where you're turning a strong profit and feel really secure in those new locations. Now, as we've been working with partners in the program, we've been following along with them carefully and created what we feel is a really solid journey map of the experience to become successful with Geo Expansion. And there's three key milestones that you can see here: activate, engage, and grow. And we've built out content and support, different kinds of resources, templates, all kinds of things that help you figure out where you're at on this journey and then help you move to those next milestones. So what I want to do is take a couple of minutes to walk through some of the key pieces and pieces of the puzzle, I guess you could say, that fit into this journey map. So as we look at that here and we kind of follow through, the first milestone is really around activate. With that, it's important to think about laying the groundwork, and that's having a solution that you get co-sell ready for those target countries. And that helps make sure that you're lined up and ready to work with Microsoft sellers in those countries. And then really making sure that you publish that solution either on Marketplace or App Source, which then opens up the door for customers to find you in those countries. There's definitely homework to do as you think about your strategy. So identifying who your target customers are, and then thinking about particular industries and verticals where your solution really shines. One of the best practices and really a pitfall that I would recommend partners to think about is many partners want to say that they're agnostic across all industries, that their solution really works from anything from financial to retail to manufacturing. However, if you have key industries and key verticals where your solution is extra successful, definitely call that out because that helps the Microsoft stakeholders that you work with and customers know that they have a great solution there that they can connect with. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple of slides here. Then it's important to get nominated. Come join us in our Geo Expansion program, and I'll highlight all the different kinds of resources that over the last 18 months we've been slowly building out and adding to really make it a rich experience that helps you. So once you've kind of gone through this activate stage, you're really ready to engage. And this is time where you think about how you maximize those customer opportunities when you have them. So thinking about that industry specific or vertical specific type of collateral that highlights your solution aligned to those industries, defining a clear reporting process so that you can track your success, and then highlighting and defining what a co-sell win looks like for you and tracking that so important because then that leads you to our next dot there on the map, which is showcasing your co-sell data. So implementing that reporting cadence to track your success as you grow in that market, and then really building out your partner showcase. And that then moves you into proving your co-sell impact. So that looks like measuring and looking at the trends of your pipeline of customers in that market, looking for those key big customer opportunities that can be really successful customer success stories, and then also having that clear target customer list that you can share with Microsoft sellers in that market. So as you work through this process, and this really does align tightly to the co-sell motion, you should start to drive a momentum of growth. And that might mean then at that point, perhaps you want to consider opening a target country headquarters in addition to your local headquarters. Maybe it's increasing the headcount, whether it's sellers or marketing headcount. Maybe it's more of the services and deployment staff. And then, of course, the most important, turning a profit in that country, and really driving some really successful wins that just continue to build momentum and drive your business. At that point, once you're really at that phase, and this is something that can take a while, this isn't a 3-month process. This takes 6 to 9 to 12 months that we see with our partners. You may be at that point where you want to think about where your next target market is. One little bit of best practices I would highlight here is to be careful about how many markets you want to target at a time. And in fact, when you apply to be a part of our Geo Expansion program, we limit your choice to the top 3 countries that you want to grow into. We see partners who identify 20 or 25 different countries they want to grow in. But I think that the best practice here for our partners is, and for all of us to think about, is realistically the investment that you need to make to be really strategic to grow in those markets and to drive that trust with potential customers means investing carefully in those countries. And so I would recommend thinking about taking it 1 market to maybe 3 at a time. And then once you have this kind of success and feel that you're really at this growth stage, then considering what your next market strategy might be. Now, we've talked about what that journey map looks like. There are different ways to drive your journey experience. And it's important to think about what your motivations are for expansion, what your business opportunity looks like, and how much you're willing to invest, both from a risk perspective as well as with actual dollars. So there's 4 different key methods that I just want to walk through here. And I'll also mention we have a great white paper that can be really insightful that digs into each of these different models in more detail that we provide to partners as part of our program. First, lowest risk, lowest cost is something that you're able to control on a customer by customer and day by day basis is the fly in, fly out method. Now, of course, with COVID, that may not be as easy right now to do, but it can be a great way for partners who are really in an exploration mode and just scoping out a new market and thinking about what their initial pipeline looks like. The next model, and this is where 85% of our partners sit in the Geo Expansion program today, or at least indicate they want to do, is to sell through local partners. This is probably a great solution for partners who have a more direct sales and deploy model for their solution, and they really want to quickly prove out that a market is going to work before investing any deeper. This also helps when you have the local partners because they already understand the local business culture, language, different tax laws, and some of those nuances to help you navigate more quickly. So from a risk perspective, it's lower, but there is more cost involved. You have to train that local partner on your solution and your value proposition and get them up to speed in order to successfully sell your program. Now, moving up another step, we have relocating and incorporating into that market. This tends to be something that we see for partners who have a more complex solution that takes more time to land with customers. And for partners who really want to reduce some of that complexity of the transaction with customers, because when you do this and sell it through partners, there can be some complexity there. But this can be more of a medium level cost or a high level cost and a medium kind of risk. You're really reliant on bringing some of your SMEs, your headquarter experts of the business, and flying them and moving them over to new countries to become expatriates where they are driving your business. That's an expensive lift and can be a risky consideration and something to really think through. Finally, there are some companies that like to incorporate and hire locally. Now, this tends to be at the highest risk level and also the highest cost model, but I think it's really successful if you have a solution that is just very complex and has a long sales cycle. When you think about how long that sales cycle might be, let's say it's 6, 9, 12 months, flying in and flying out for every customer engagement just becomes unrealistic. And so hiring locally, you get these experts that are going to help you with networking and showing that commitment to customers locally that you want to succeed. So these are 4 different models. Again, we have a great white paper that kind of walks through these and gives you more detail. But this is something really important to think about with your strategy for geo expansion. Once you've kind of figured out you are ready to go, you have an idea of how you want to expand, it's then important to think about what your Microsoft story looks like, as well as your customer story. And let's talk first through things to get ready and best practices and tips I would recommend here about your Microsoft story. And I'll just kind of let this all build out. First of all, especially from coming from a go-to-market background and perspective, defining your crisp value proposition so important. And along with that comes defining that target audience. And I mentioned before, having some key industries and verticals perhaps where your value proposition really shines. So important to have that ready to showcase when you get those connections and opportunities to work with Microsoft sellers or channel managers or other stakeholders. It's also really important to get sophisticated and some understanding in how the Microsoft scorecard works and aligning your value proposition tightly to those scorecard items. Our field people are really driven around revenue attainment goals. And so if you can identify how your solution or your service helps drive that with the field, it's just very, very helpful, and it creates a clear opportunity to connect. And then that leads to articulating a really good better together story because you're helping these sellers meet those scorecard goals. If you're thinking about that P2P motion, so connecting with local partners, having a sense of what your partner ecosystem looks like today and what you want it to look like down the road is also another piece of the puzzle to have in good shape. Co-sell, have a historical sense of what your co-sell performance looks like and have that ready to share with sellers. That's something they're always looking for, to understand what kind of co-sell performance you drive and then how you can then connect that through your value proposition. It's also good to map out the markets where you have strong sales support or partners already in place that are ready to engage with customers. That just helps those Microsoft stakeholders understand better how to connect with you. And then thinking about what your current pipeline looks like and where you might actually want to ask for help. That's just really an interesting way to drive a great conversation when you're talking with sellers or other field people. ACR, Azure Consumed Revenue. It's a key component for much of Microsoft leadership for all of us to look at. So knowing how your solution might drive Azure Consumed Revenue or consumed revenue around each of our different cloud platforms, very helpful. It's also great to understand if you have customers that are part of the Microsoft account list, and these are the prioritized customers in the different countries. So making sure that you're familiar with that and identifying where you have customers that fit in part of that list, just really helpful. Finally, making sure that you have a really clean and current marketplace or app source listing for your solution, just so important so that customers can directly find you. And then finally, using video, especially in these times where we're all working from home here, having video that you can use to deliver a clear value prop and pitch to Microsoft, just super helpful. Now let's flip the table there and think about, what does your market story look like for customers? And we'll just let this build here real quickly. There's something I think is so important is around localization. And I don't just mean translation. It's important to think about what your approach is for each different country that you're landing in. You need to tell different stories for those different audiences. And I think about this in terms of some markets, their pain points or their needs and what your value proposition or solution might be for those pain points may not even matter or exist in a different country. So being really clear and understanding what your customer needs are and having stories that map well with things like case studies, preferably that are local to that market, really help resonate with customers. Doing things like seminars or webinars can be really helpful, although I do think with COVID, we're seeing a little bit of fatigue around that. And so maybe considering things more like chalk talks or coffee coffee chats or some kind of different way to engage and connect with customers that gives those networking opportunities, definitely worth thinking through. It's also helpful to think about how you network both on a personal level with customers and people in those markets, but also through social. LinkedIn is such a powerful tool and Twitter to really start to connect with customers and share those stories. Leveraging an existing database and your customer contacts can be very helpful. Some of your customers in your local markets may have connections into new markets, so it's important to think about that. Another data point point I'd recommend is humanizing your brand. It's just so important. We all want to connect on that personal level and have that sense of trust around a brand. And there's so much research now about how customers want to purchase from brands where they can find that there's trust and that human connection. So really thinking about that. Finally, again, embracing video. We're all so busy, so having some of those short video snippets that outline your story or outline some of those interesting case studies that humanize your brand go a long way. And I always forget this last one, white papers. You know, there are times where I don't want to necessarily spend time watching videos, but reading a white paper that gives interesting thought leadership about what might be happening in a particular market or that aligns with your solution, those are worth taking the time to develop because it provides content that's of real value before a customer even makes a purchase with you. So definitely something that I think we don't take into account about the value and how that can connect. All right. I've shared a lot of best practices and how you can grow into new markets, what your model might look like, how you prepare and really show yourself in a great light, talking with Microsoft stakeholders as well as with customers in those new markets. So let's talk then about what our Geo Expansion program can do to help you work against each of those different boxes that I was showing you on the previous two slides. Again, this program, its goal is to help you with something that's more of a predictable and a consistent experience that'll really accelerate your growth in those new markets. And we try to do that with guidance that really aligns your solution as part of the co-sell motion and engine in each of those markets. And then we also try to align and create access to different expertise in the field and through our go-to-market benefits so that you can showcase and drive visibility of your solution in those new markets. And we do that through each of those 3 milestones that I talked about at the beginning with the journey map. So for Activate, it's about how do you build out your capacity in a target country? How do you refine your value proposition to be really crisp and solid? Thinking through if there are solution gaps that you need to address, and then having a really solid expansion plan that uses some of those go-to-market benefits that you have access to today. From an engaged perspective, then, is about how do you drive connections with those target market stakeholders, whether it's Microsoft stakeholders or customer stakeholders. And there are great things you can do with the go-to-market plans and benefits to help drive prioritization of your solution in that co-sell engine. And then finally, from a growth perspective, thinking about how you connect in to some of those communities, calls, different social handles, and getting really strategic about how you drive brand awareness in those markets. So we provide guidance across all of those different milestones. Now, once you're part of the program, we have this new digital Geo Expansion portal. I'm really excited about it because it creates a dedicated experience for all of our onboarded program, our partners. And we have almost 1,000 partners that are part of our program now that are engaged. And so we've organized all of this content, and I'll share some examples of the different kinds of content, and there's a lot that guides you through all of that in an organized fashion against those milestones. We also have a set of webinar opportunities. And I know I mentioned before webinars, there can be a little bit of fatigue, but we do have things that I think are really relevant and interesting and engaging on a regular basis that can help our partners with geo expansion. And so we keep a calendar of those events there for you. And then another piece that I did that was kind of a creative solution is podcasts. Personally, I'm a podcast junkie and I love listening to them. I find that it's an interesting and a different way to learn something new. So these series of 4 podcasts just share some best practices, things that we've seen partners do really well that work, and also pitfalls to avoid as you're thinking about what your expansion program and strategy should look like. So this is a great tool and an organized experience where we can help you. Now, as part of that, there's a lot of content and there really is, there's so much actually. It's kind of interesting as I think about, and I did kind of a survey across the different Microsoft tools out there and resources. It's kind of overwhelming. There is a sea of playbooks and podcasts and websites and PDFs and PowerPoints. So we've tried to kind of organize those into a way that makes sense for you to consume. Now, a couple of pieces here that I want to highlight is we have a lot of interesting field experts that we've organized into what I call an agency guide, and they are available for you to work with, whether it's landing in particular markets, building out your strategy, maybe your business plan for geo expansion, localizing your content and collateral in a way that really resonates creatively with that market. Maybe it's about partnering with local partners. We have an agency that can really help you do that. So there are these agencies that are there, and we regularly highlight them in some of our webinars. We also have a lot of digital tools, templates that can help you with building out a go-to-market calendar of events or campaigns that you want to drive. We also have sample case study tools that you can use and a value prop generator that walks you through answering some key questions. And at the end of that, then you have a nice, crisp value proposition. We also have some data tools for anyone who's more of a data head, where you can crunch numbers and build out what your ROI looks like for your solution in a new market, as well as identifying if a particular market with a particular industry or vertical, what that customer sizing opportunity looks like. So there's lots of these digital tools that we've put together and we provide to you as part of the program. We've had a lot of partners that have been a part of this experience for the last 18 months, and I wanted to give some quick examples, and each of them have a different experience and a different view of what success looks like for them. Now, these are all some quick examples out of our Asia markets, moving over into places like Middle East, Africa, US, the UK, LATAM, and India. What I think is it's really interesting to highlight is for many of them, what their success looks like is very different. In some cases, it's about making a partner-to-partner connection. In some cases, it's about driving lead generation. In other cases, it's about driving incremental new business and kind of unlocking key markets. One thing I'll highlight here, it's kind of interesting. Our top 4 markets that partners request to land into are the US, the UK, Australia, and Germany. They're the top requested, and they can be very difficult markets to land in because there are so many partners. There's a lot of complexity sometimes in those locations, but we do see examples of success where these partners have what I would say some great success stories. A particular example I wanted to highlight is Namagu. They were a smaller startup based out of Israel, and through a lot of work and effort, accessing all of the information that we provided them and really persevering. They've become a managed partner based in the US at this stage, and they've doubled their co-sell performance year over year. They've learned a lot about what it takes to invest in those partnerships and those relationships when they've made connections with Microsoft stakeholders, and that's really worked well for them. So they're a great example of success in my mind. Let's talk quickly then about how you can get access to all of this and start your journey and figure out where you are on the journey map. We have a landing page at aka.ms. You can see the link here, GTM Geo Expansion. From there, there are a lot of links and resources to help you kind of work through what your right experience is. One of the first things I think many partners should consider doing is taking our readiness assessment. It's free. It takes maybe 15, 20 minutes. And at the end, you can get a free 30-minute consultation with one of our field experts to review to determine if your business plan is really solid and ready to go. And they can help you think through some of the intricate details maybe, as well as some ideas of have you thought of, or maybe you haven't thought about XYZ. So that can be a great place to start. If you really you're ready to go, come apply for the program. There are some very key basic requirements that we expect to start in the program, mainly that you have a solution that you've listed either in Marketplace or AppSource. That's because that gives that important visibility to customers, and then making sure that you have a solution that's co-sell ready in those target markets that you want to land in. That just provides that connection and makes it easier for you to work with Microsoft sellers in those markets. So come apply. We would love to have you join our program and take advantage of all of our content. And then we've got our community. This is a great place where I share news, ideas, ask questions, partners share different kinds of things that are happening. And it's a great place just to really get engaged and connected. Once you apply and you're invited into the program, I'd love to run a monthly activation webinar so that you know that there's an actual live human being here ready to help you and support you in your experience. And then from there, we give you access to the digital portal, and we help you start to work through all of the information and give you some great next steps to really start to grow. I've talked a lot. I'd love to pause at this point and see if there are anybody who have any questions that you can put into chat to answer.
All right, Wendy, while our participants are adding their questions to chat, I have a few that maybe you can support and answer. So with COVID and this global pandemic, I imagine expansion isn't easy right now. What do you recommend?
That's an important topic that we've been discussing a lot with multiple partners. It is harder, especially when you think about that one model I talked about, the fly-in, fly-out kind of method. And I think there's some hesitation for our partners today to expand into new markets when there's still some uncertainty. So I think for partners who want to wait, this is a great time to do the readiness assessment that I mentioned, build out your strategy, polish that value proposition, research the markets that you want to consider growing into, and even starting with our digital application and becoming a part of our program, just with doing a lot of that prep work to get really ready to grow is a great first step. I'll also mention that we are seeing that Asia markets are opening up a little bit faster than the rest of the world. And so with that, we are seeing some partners target those markets, and our Microsoft subsidiaries are aware of this and are really eager to welcome partners into those Asia markets. So definitely keep that in mind if you're eager to expand now.
Interesting, great tips. So what if, kind of along those same lines, if I want to find sellers to engage in a new market, how do you recommend I go about this?
It's interesting. I'll first caveat that many partners, when they join our program, ask me for a list of Microsoft seller names and email addresses, and we know from a privacy perspective that isn't something that necessarily works. But we do have a resource guide as part of this program that identifies ways for you to get plugged in by market. So the UK has a regular community call that partners can join. There are often social handles and events and campaigns that you can be made aware of. There are also often partner hubs, country by country, where there's like a wealth of information for you to go plug into and start driving visibility. Get involved, get engaged, comment, ask questions in those locations. And from there, you will find that you will start to get some of those engagements with either sellers or channel managers or other critical stakeholders who can help you make some of those connections.
Great. Is this a global program or is it only for specific countries and markets?
It's definitely a global program. We have partners going from everywhere to everywhere. I did mention that there are those top 4 requested markets, but we have partners that want to grow into interesting parts of Middle East and Africa, different parts of Asia. We have interest in LATAM, Latin America, and of course the North America continent. So this is a program that helps you globally from wherever you are to wherever you want to go.
Great. Thanks, Wendy. Well, I don't see any new questions pop up. I think we can wrap up a little bit early. Is there any last comments that you want to make before I close?
I would just definitely encourage you to come check out the program. And you can always reach out if you've got specific questions. We have an email alias that you can find from that landing page, where we're always eager to help answer and point you in the right direction the best that we can. Love to see more partners join our program.
Great, thanks again. And I just posted in the chat here our survey. Would love attendees and participants to complete the survey. This is a monthly series that we do. So would love feedback, topics that you might want to see for future sessions. So please do take time to complete the survey. And with that, I think we will wrap it up and hope to see you all back next month.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you.
And then just one other note, the recording will be available in the GTM Partner Community Forum within the next couple of days.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks all.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.